Greetings friends, today I'm going to tell you about an analysis of a competitive game. There's going to be a few of these coming up on the channel as we talk about my recent run in the GT, and maybe you'll learn something from this. That's kind of the whole hope behind this video. Okay, so this was my army, and if you didn't see my army and hear me talk about it, I did a huge video on it last week, so check that out on the channel. It's like 35 minutes long, breaks down everything, so I'm not going to be covering any of that in this video, but I'm going to tell you about the game I had against Chaos Demons. This is my first game at the GT, 84-60, and here's what I faced. I faced against Be'lakor, a Bloodthirster, two Lords of Change, Shalaxi Hellbane, the Changeling, and then 3 squads of Flamers. And on paper, you think to yourself, maybe you could take Assassination and bring it down against this list, but I was honestly a little bit scared in that I know that Be'lakor, the Bloodthirster, and Shalaxi will all make very quick work of anything they get into melee with. Be'lakor, of course, has that aura when you put him down that creates the Shadow of Chaos, meaning anyone else that can deep strike with Be'lakor can arrive just 6 inches away from your units, basically giving them the ability to do a 6-inch charge. I don't have any infiltrators on my list, so I had to expect that that was going to happen. And when I looked at this list to begin with, I was actually surprised about the amount of shooting the Lord of Changes can do. Shalaxi Hellbane has some good shooting as well. And then obviously the Flamers were there to score points. So I kind of thought to myself, if I'm going to do well against this list, what I want to do is pick up all his Flamers. So there's no Flamers for the opponent to have, so that's probably all their scoring units. Potentially that means they'll have to pay command points to sticky objectives, or they're going to have to leave Greater Demons on objectives. The Changeling is obviously very tricksy, you can't even shoot him sometimes, so he's going to also be a scoring unit. But I wasn't really confident facing this, just because I hadn't had very much preparation against Chaos Demons. I played them a few times. When Be'lakor comes in, if they deep strike a couple of Greater Demons with him and they're all up in your face very early, it can feel pretty hairy. In one of my other games on stream when I did play against Chaos Demons, I had Centurions, and the Centurions did a ton of work with those sustained hits, which I did not have in my tournament list. I dropped the Centurions just because I wasn't really sure I felt that they were worth it. But they were obviously good at killing monsters and vehicles with their sustained hits too. So what I had to expect was probably going to be shot by multiple Lords of Changes, and then probably going to have Be'lakor plus the Bloodthirster plus Shalaxi come in for basically 2 6-inch Greater Demon charges. Whatever they charge is probably going to die, and then Flamers are going to score points. That's kind of how I looked at the list. And this is turn 1, and I'm going to show a breakdown of each turn, or a bunch of the turns. And obviously we are not endorsed by McDonald's, you can see that up here. So, let me start by telling you that I've got this laser pointer. Hopefully you can see it okay. I guess I don't press any, I just move my mouse about. So the deployment zones were these sort of like semicircle ones. So I deployed in this side against the demons in that side. You can see that basically all the demon player has on the board at this point is 2 Lord of Changes, and there were some Flamers hidden here, and then there was some Flamers hidden here. So my thought turn 1, and what I pretty much did was I teleported my heavy intercessors over onto this objective, and I moved my units down. Basically I'm trying to keep as much distance as I can, because I do have like 36-inch las cannons. I know that at this point the repulsor had no target. I know the Vindicator tanks had no target. The Vindicator tanks in this one, and I've done this before, are potentially bait, because the Vindicator tanks do a lot of damage. If they were left unchecked, they would move around here in turn 2 and probably put some serious hurt on this Lord of Change. I didn't call Devastator Doctrine. So basically what ended up happening was that basically just at the start of the game I wanted to keep my aggressors safe. The Librarian Dreadnought's there obviously to teleport the aggressors, and the Vindicator tanks are kind of like a shield for the aggressors. It's not going to be super easy for the opponent to get to the aggressors. The aggressors are more than an inch from this wall as well, so they can't really be charged through the wall. So the aggressors were just screening here. The Death Company were here. I figured this was a great spot for the Death Company, because it basically meant that I had a 12-inch jump forward. Remember, Death Company can advance and charge. So 12-inch jump forward would put me on the middle objective. or 12 inches would maybe get me to almost where this Inceptor is. So then I can have an easy charge against anything on the objective. I believe they try to move flamers up behind here later in the game. And also felt like there was a pretty good charge over this way as well. So like 12 inches probably gets me, if that's halfway, 12 inches probably get me about here. So again, if I advance and charge with these Death Company, they're on that objective, making an easy charge. This Ballistus Dreadnought has a very good line of sight right across the board, covering the middle objective. Potentially able to cover, I guess, like a firing window this way as well, and the heavy intercessors are behind here. So I had a fairly decent setup, I felt like. Like I was going to have board control just because I had more models, and then as we got into the game, I was precisely correct. You can see here that one of the Vindicators did get destroyed. Bellicor came down here. In next to Bellicor, we had a Bloodthirster up here, and we also had Shalaxi Hellbane up here. The aggressors moved out, and they shot the hell out of her. They didn't actually kill her, but the second that they moved, they overwatched her and finished her off. One of the Vindicator tanks got picked up by one of the Bloodthirster, like on a 6-inch charge. My Inceptors are going to get picked up in the middle by this Lord of Change, most probably. The Death Company moved out. I figured I wanted to get behind here and kill the flamers that were just basically sitting on this objective, like coming out every turn. My reinforcements came in over here. This was a 4-man squad of henchmen. The idea of the henchmen would just be to get onto this objective, meaning that if I kill this Lord of Change, then I could hold this backfield objective, and I had 6 Eradicators inside this repulsor. So taking out the Lord of Change, I felt like I had a pretty good chance of doing that with 6 Eradicators, a repulsor. The heavy intercessors could be shooting. They ended up doing a bunch of actions like cleanse on this objective. I think my Librarian Dreadnought even did cleanse back here as well. And the Ballistus Dreadnought moved up to get some better firing arcs over here. I did teleport my intercessors onto this objective here in turn 2 before the Deep Strike shenanigans happened. And while they held it for me for like 1 turn, they got mopped up pretty quickly when the Greater Demons came in. I can't remember what killed the intercessors. I think it was flamers. I think a squad of flamers deep strike back here and killed these flamers as well. So, I mean, as hairy as this game maybe now looks, I am holding the 2 on my side pretty comfortably. This guy's about to get nuked the second he moves in Overwatch. He also had Oath of Moment on him, so that obviously helped a lot. While I don't hold the middle, I have a chance here with a Death Company charge that I could hold the middle, or I've got the longer Death Company charge in the following turn to take out this one and attack the backfield objective, which is ultimately what I ended up going for. I figured with these guys, once they came in turn 3, with a 6-inch move in advance, they'd get onto that objective, meaning that if I kill this, I probably hold 3 pretty comfortably. Hopefully either the Inceptors or this Dreadnought can just keep him busy in the middle. And then, I mean, my Vindicator here at this point was not long for this world. It just went over there to try and slow things down and do some general... I mean, it's going to fire its Demolisher cannon every turn. It's going to do some damage, right? So as we move into turn 4, and I guess this is what happened in that my Eradicators came out, and both squads came out, and they both shot this Lord of Change. The Lord of Change exploded, killed the whole squad of henchmen, because it's D6 mortal wounds, and killed 3 of the 6 Eradicators. And I believe it did some mortal wounds to the repulsor as well, but... So I lost 5 points there from the explosion, because essentially if she hadn't exploded, then my henchmen were on that objective at the end of the turn. But so they would have been on it for the start of turn 5, unfortunately not. So that cost me 5 points. I think I guess I changed my mind, took the Death Company this week, finish off that Lord of Change with the Ballistus Dreadnought. This was stickied because I had my sticky objective in turn 1, so this is still stickied. And I think at this point there's just maybe 1 or 2 aggressors left behind this wall. I think that looks like the Sergeant. So maybe like the Captain is still alive. Like I said, the Flamers picked up my Intercessors here, and all that they've really got left at this point is the Bloodthirster and some Flamers. So, while my scoring wasn't quite as good as it could have been, 5 points obviously lost for this explosion. I felt like I played this game pretty well. I felt like I had good coverage. If you can see, there were all these pieces of terrain were on Perspex. So basically, Perspex was marking the bases of the ruins. It's kind of hard to see here. It was really hard to see at the event as well. But every piece of terrain has a a piece of perspex under it, and the perspex was obviously the line of sight blocking. So yeah, this was a good game at this point. So it's like 4 objectives, or 3, but I'm going to get on 4, but I guess I never got the 5 points for taking the backfield. You can't really factor in a Lord of Change exploding, and I guess that was one of the reasons that I didn't pick Assassinate and Bring It Down, just because I wasn't confident, and I knew there would be some explosions, and you can lose critical units, or you can lose a lot of stuff to D6 mortal wounds, and I did lose quite a bit, actually. I mean, I lost like 100 points of Eradicators, 40 points of Henchmen, and I think it did like 6 mortal wounds or something to my Repulsor as well. So this game at this point was kind of in the bag. I was feeling confident enough. The Bloodthirster obviously came in here and ate one more of my tanks for Bring It Down. I did finally get on this objective, not that it mattered. The 2 Death Company guys were in this objective, not that it mattered. The remaining 2 aggressors were on this objective, again, not that it mattered. So that was the end of the game for 84 points. And like I said, fixed scoring and Bring It Down and Assassinate. Could have scored more, but I wasn't very confident doing that. I had very little reps against this exact army. In fact, I played Greater Demons twice, and I think one time it was Be'lakor deep striking a couple of Great Unclean Ones, and I really struggled to kill the Great Unclean Ones. So that's why I didn't go for this, because I don't want to not get many points. When, you know, like if you leave a Greater Demon on 1 point, it's the difference between maybe scoring 5 or scoring nothing. So I didn't go for it. My opponent did deploy Teleport Homers, which the Flamers did a bunch of, and Bring It Down, which they did not too bad on, but Primary was the big problem for them, and I think that their list actually kind of struggled to hold Primary, just because once I started focusing down the Flamers, and the fact that I could teleport units around to deal with the Flamers, and that's a great thing that Librarian and Dreadnought lets you do, and also I could teleport units around to put them on objectives. And obviously they didn't have that much board presence at the start of the game. I had a look through the secondaries I did Assassinate. Behind enemy lines I got on turn 1. I really hate getting this one on turn 1. I don't think it should be a turn 1 card. Same as capture enemy outposts. I didn't have this one on turn 1 this time, but I do not like to pick those. So if you get those cards on turn 1, I feel like in turn 1 you cannot pay this command points to get rid of them, because you never know what card you're going to get later in the game, and it's going to be much more critical. So if you get behind enemy lines or capture enemy outposts on turn 1, I feel like you have to keep it and throw it away at the end for the extra command point. The only thing it's going to give you is an extra command point. I guess this is a risk of going tactical objectives. I would have had 5 more points on Primary in that 5th turn if the henchman hadn't died from the mortal wound explosion. So that would have put me at 8-9 points, which I think is very respectable for tactical objectives. I'm trying to think if there's much I could have done here to score more. I was having a look at the ones that I had, and I don't really think there was much. Maybe a couple of points, like I could have maybe killed a better unit and Bring It Down, but 89 or 90, there's not much more. Tell me in the comments below if you think there's more I could have done here. I had Extend Battle Lines, which got 5, Deploy Homers, which got 5, Defend Stronghold 3, Cleanse for 5, Bring It Down for 6, nothing for Behind Enemy Lines, and 5 for Assassinate. So there's really only 1 secondary that I didn't score anything on. The aggressors, I mentioned them last week. They provide a ton of value. They basically killed Shalaxi Hellbane by themselves. They did like 15 wounds to her, and then the second that she tried to move in the next turn, because I still had Oath of Moment on her, they just killed her. So the aggressors were very, very useful. The Vindicators screening them actually worked a treat. And funny that happened in this game, because I don't know if I really meant to screen them so well with the Vindicator tanks, but I did this in my previous game against Chaos Demons that I won. And in that game, the Chaos Demon player killed both Vindicators. In this one, they only killed one, but they killed both Vindicators, and I was really worried because I was thinking, God damn it, I've lost both Vindicators. Is that really bad? But it left the Chaos Demons in the open, and I was able to just mop them up with the aggressors. Yeah, so that was game 1 of my GT experience against the Chaos Demons. I hope you learned something. Leave me a comment if there's anything you want to ask. I'm sure I'll be able to answer some comments or questions. I am going to make some changes to this Gladius list in the near future, and I think I have some improvements to make for it. But in the interim, if you like this video, hit like, subscribe if you want to see more content, and I'll have more videos, shorter bite-sized videos coming out, maybe a little bit more frequent than often, until I get through all 5 games of this GT that I was at. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you next time, my friends. By the blood are we made strong. Peace.